All right, so let's break this down and make sense of the Raiders offseason and the current situation we could be going through. Now, the Raiders going into this year's offseason, we have a ton of cap space. Currently, the Las Vegas Raiders have $95 million in cap space, which is the second most in the NFL according to Spot Track. They can also free up a little bit more money with cutting Gardner Minshew as well. So when you look at the Raiders situation with the new head coach coming in, new regime in general, new general manager, and a new face in the organization with Tom Brady, there's a ton to work with, a lot of money to be spent, and it's really going to be interesting to see how the Raiders spend their money in this offseason. Because one thing about the Raiders is we have a lot of needs. We got some clear needs at the quarterback position, running back. I mean, it wouldn't hurt to bring in another wide receiver as well. We need some help on that offensive line, specifically in the interior. And we got other positions of needs on the defense when it comes to a linebacker, ideally one that can cover passes. We could use some depth at the cornerback position. And the edge rusher position could also be a need for the Raiders because we got Malcolm Koonce and K'Lavon Chaisson due for a contract in free agency. And the Raiders also got a lot of guys that are due for a contract. So although the Raiders have a lot of money, that could go by very quickly just due to all the needs and all the players we may have to re-sign. But personally, I think one of the most interesting things that the Raiders will do in free agency is how they address the quarterback position, because I'm going to be honest with you, I look at this free agency class at the quarterback position and I really don't love it. I mean, you got a guy like Sam Darnold at the top of the list coming off of a great season with the Minnesota Vikings, and he very likely is going to be the hottest commodity out there. But personally, Sam Darnold to me very likely would be a hard pass just due to the fact that, I mean, he currently has a $40 million market value. And to me, that is just way too much to spend on a quarterback that, I'm going to be honest, I'm not completely sold on him. Essentially, he's had one good year, and that was in a really good situation with the Minnesota Vikings with a good head coach and Kevin O'Connell. He's got great weapons on the offensive side of the football and Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson, good running game. So to me, he had everything working for him. Now, I will say with the Raiders hiring Chip Kelly, this does give me a lot more confidence in our offensive play caller. But to me, I mean, Sam Darnold is just not a quarterback I would be sold on. And for that price tag, you have to be completely sold on him. You have to go all in on Sam Darnold, think that he's the next franchise quarterback for the Raiders, and I just do not see that with him. I think you kind of saw his ceiling this season with the Minnesota Vikings. He was a good quarterback. He was able to get them some wins, but when it came to crunch time, when it came to the playoffs, when it mattered the most, he did not perform well, and they were a one and done. And I just don't really have a lot of confidence if Sam Darnold were the future of the Raiders at the quarterback position. And obviously for $40 million a season, that would be way too expensive to be considered a bridge quarterback. Considering too how young he is, I don't think you're going to be able to sign him to like a 2-3 year contract. He's probably going to be looking for 4 years or more. And like I said, I just do not think that's an investment that the Raiders should make in this year's offseason. Another quarterback that is going to be available is former Green Bay Packers legend Aaron Rodgers. But I'm going to be honest with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, this is a guy that's getting way up there in age, coming off of the New York Jets where, statistically, I mean, you look at it, he wasn't really bad. Pretty solid numbers in 2024. But at this stage of his career, he's got 1 year left at max, I feel like. Personally, I think he should just retire. You're also talking about a quarterback that has a huge ego, and he really could be a cancer to this locker room. I just do not like the leadership that Aaron Rodgers possesses one bit. Aaron Rodgers only made that situation worse out there in New York, and he's just a terrible leader. He's also a quarterback that, he has a huge ego, which is cool and everything, but at that point, he's not going to come in here to be a bridge quarterback. He's not going to take on the role to be a mentor to your young quarterback. He's going to want to be the star of the show. He's going to want to have full control of the offense. And just bringing a guy like Aaron Rodgers, I think that'd be a huge red flag for the Raiders. And personally, I don't think that's going to happen, but I just had to mention it. Aaron Rodgers is a big name, and he will be available, but I think the Raiders should stay very clear of Aaron Rodgers. Another guy you could potentially consider is Russell Wilson, but I don't know how that relationship is going to work between him and Pete Carroll. They do have a lot of history together, but we don't really know how it ended between them, if there was any bad blood. I think if you wanted to go the Russell Wilson route, we should have done it a year ago, where we're going to get him on a vet minimum contract. And now very likely Russell's going to get anywhere from $30 to $35 million per season. And although he is a solid quarterback, he may be a decent bridge guy for us for a year or two. I also just feel like he is a guy that also, it seems like drama has been following him as well, especially with, the latest news that it appears like there's rumors that Russell Wilson's camp leaked out the news with the Pittsburgh Steelers, how their offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, did not let Russell Wilson make audibles late in the season. And very shortly after that, the Pittsburgh Steelers made the announcement that they're going to more than likely move on from Russell Wilson. So there could definitely be something there, maybe a little bit of bad blood between Russell Wilson and Pittsburgh on his way out. So something to keep in mind. You could also consider a younger, cheaper option in Justin Fields. He would be intriguing just due to the athleticism he brings to the table and Chip Kelly's experience with mobile quarterbacks. But another thing with Justin Fields is he doesn't really fit the mold of a bridge quarterback just due to the fact of how young he is. And he's also a quarterback that needs development himself. So he's not going to really do a great job of helping a young rookie quarterback develop, which ultimately I think the Raiders should draft a quarterback this season. Start to prepare for this young guy to be the future of your franchise. Maybe you don't have to start him year one, but if you're going to do that, ideally you should have a solid vet presence in the locker room to help them along with the development. And I mean, another interesting option when it comes to free agency at the quarterback position could be Daniel Jones. I think Daniel Jones, if you could get him at the right price, if you could get him to like a short-term deal, that could be a very interesting option. He could be a solid bridge quarterback for the time being. And if that was a possibility to sign him to like a 2-year contract, I would definitely consider something like that. Personally, I'd much rather get a Daniel Jones to a short-term contract than go after, like I said, a Sam Darnold and Aaron Rodgers or even a Justin Fields. But it's ultimately just going to depend on how Daniel Jones's market value ends up being. If he's going to get paid a lot of money as well, 30 plus million, and he's looking for like a big multi-year contract, then, you have to stay away from that as well. But just looking at it, I mean, the way the Raiders handle the quarterback position in free agency will say a lot about what we could potentially do come draft night. If we spend big money on a Sam Darnold, then, maybe we're not going to get a quarterback, especially early in the draft. If the Raiders don't make a huge move in free agency at quarterback, then that could mean we could be big players for a quarterback early in the draft this season. It's just going to be interesting to see what this new regime does at the quarterback position during free agency. But as I said, I don't really love this free agency class when it comes to the quarterback position. When it comes to free agency, there are some positions you could definitely take a look at. Now, I think at running back, you should really stay away in free agency. There's just so many good options in the draft. Now, when it comes to the wide receiver room, though, that's where things could get interesting. The name of T. Higgins has been a name floating around. He's young, 26 years of age. During his career, he has had 330 receptions, over 4,500 yards receiving, and 34 touchdowns in 70 games. And last season, he had about 73 catches for about 911 yards and 10 touchdowns in 12 games. So he definitely, I can understand why people get hyped up about him. But the only thing that kind of concerns me about T. Higgins is the last 2 seasons, he has missed 10 games. And throughout his young career, he has missed at least 1 game every season. So I think availability definitely matters. And with him currently having a $25.4 million market value, I definitely think he's going to be a guy that gets paid. To me, it would be a risky investment, especially with us currently not having a reliable quarterback throwing him the football. I mean, if this was a situation like, the Patriots, the Drake May, the Commanders with Jaden Daniels, if you just had a young quarterback you were really confident in and you wanted to bolster that wide receiver room, give him another legitimate option, then I could see where you go all in a guy like this. But to me, I just think this may be too expensive for us. And also, too, I just don't know if he's a true number 1 wide receiver. He has shown that he's one hell of a number 2 wide receiver, being on the opposite side of Jamar Chase. But For that money, he's got to be a true number one. So although he would be flashy, I would be cautious about him. And I think we should go in a different direction at the wide receiver position. But I think the one guy the Raiders should consider going all out for on the offensive side of the football is offensive guard Trey Smith from the Chiefs. He's only 25 years old. He still has some upside, and he's been known as one of the best run-blocking guards in the league. Stealing him from a divisional rival would be a double win. We are able to address a need for the Raiders, strengthen the offensive line, while also weakening a divisional rival in the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, he does have a steep market value, $19.7 million, but I think guard is a massive need. The offensive line definitely needs some help. And if you're going to get a young quarterback in the draft, the best way to have him succeed is to invest in the trenches. And ultimately, the game of football is won up front in the trenches, in the offensive line, and the defensive line. So if the Raiders were to get super aggressive for one player, I wouldn't mind it being Trey Smith. And when it comes to free agency in general, there's a lot of interesting names to keep an eye out for. Linebacker Drake Greenlaw could be a solid option for us as well. Imagine him and we bring back Spillane. That could be a nice combination right there. Also, we should definitely get another cornerback. Charvarius Ward from the 49ers would be a great option as well. I think we have a good young cornerback in Jacorian Bennett. Unfortunately, Jack Jones wasn't what we thought he would be. He was inconsistent all season long, giving us some big plays, and he's not the best when it comes to tackling in the run game. So I think we could use an upgrade at the starting cornerback position, get Jacorian Bennett with another veteran in free agency, or you could address it higher in the draft. But there are some solid names to keep an eye out on in the cornerback position during free agency. And lastly, when it comes to the Raiders cap space and free agency, there's a lot of guys in-house that we should consider bringing back. And of course, one of them should be linebacker Robert Spillane. I mean, currently he has a market value about $10.4 million. To me, he's worth it. He's been solid. He's the captain of this defense. He's got the green dot. He brings a lot of leadership, and he brings an intensity that we've been missing at the linebacker spot for years. So to me, that should be a no-brainer. Bring back Robert Spillane. Also, try to bring back Nate Hobbs. He's a great nickel cornerback. The only thing is he has had a lot of injuries throughout his career, so you're going to have to get him for the right price, but definitely a guy that I would put in the priority list when it comes to re-signing our own guys. Trayvon Merrick, also a guy you should try to bring back at the right price. And also at the edge rusher position, to me, you got to at least bring back one of these two, whether it be Malcolm Koonce or Kalavion Chason. They're both defensive ends that have upside and provide really good depth at the edge position. And Malcolm Koonce is a guy that at the end of that 2023 regular season, he looked like a rising star, but he had a season-ending injury last season, so that was a big blow for the team. And I would absolutely love to bring him back, but you have to definitely be cautious on his contract. Currently, Spot Track has his market value at $20 million, which is absolutely insane. To me, that is way too high. He has a lot of upside. I would like to bring him back, but at the end of the day, he only has half a season of good NFL tape, and he's coming off of a big injury, so you can't pay that much, in my opinion. You have to try to bring him back to a prove-it deal. If the Raiders can do that, I'm all for it. But ultimately, in this offseason, the Raiders have a lot of moves to make. They got the cap space to do it, but they can't afford to be reckless. We have to make good signings. We got to prioritize certain positions, know what positions to spend in free agency, and what positions we can maybe address in the draft. You got to add some depth at the linebacker and cornerback spot, and you got to make sure to re-sign some of your key guys. So there's a lot of moves the Raiders can make this offseason and free agency, and I'm super excited to see what the Raiders end up doing. But ultimately, we'll just see what ends up happening when it comes to free agency. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Who are some names you think the Raiders should target in free agency? And also, what are some names that you think the Raiders should stay away from in free agency, especially when it comes to that quarterback position? Let me know in that comment section down below. But with that being said, Raider Nation, that is all I have for you guys in today's video. Anybody that is new to the channel, you guys love Raider-related content just like this, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. With that being said, I will see you guys in the next one.